Bitcoin is not a scam. Seriously. Over the last 14 years, Bitcoin has gone from nothing to spawning an entire cryptocurrency market that's worth billions of dollars. And with that sort of swift rise, you are going to get a lot of people who really love the technology, but also a lot of people who really hate it. That kind of thing is to be expected. Some of the people who love or hate Bitcoin don't really have a decent reason as to why. They just kind of picked a side. However, there are a lot of people out there with a good understanding of Bitcoin that are on both sides. But what seems to happen is the most knowledgeable people on the subject don't get the most attention. And this is for many reasons. A lot of times, the people who are knowledgeable aren't necessarily focused on educating others. And even if they are, their videos, books, or podcasts might just not be what the wider audience wants to watch. If you are someone who loves Bitcoin and you go to YouTube to watch some videos on it, are you going to pick the one that breaks down the code of how Bitcoin actually functions, or are you going to watch the one about how Bitcoin will make you a millionaire? Both of these videos could have decent information in them, but one is clearly more focused on educating you, while the other is a lot more focused on getting views. And the same thing is true for Bitcoin haters. They would prefer to watch something that reinforces their belief that Bitcoin is bad, rather than a more educational video that maybe explains Bitcoin's functionality. And if you are someone who takes the time to watch the super educational deep dive videos, awesome, but that just isn't what the average person is doing. This kind of behavior then leads to terrible ideas being perpetuated in each community. People in the crypto space start thinking that a coin that is clearly a scam is the next Bitcoin, only to be rug pulled a week later. And in anti-Bitcoin communities, you see the idea that Bitcoin is just a scam, and anyone who is a fan of it is either an idiot or a grifter, which is just not true. It isn't wrong to say that the crypto space as a whole is full of idiots and grifters, because it is, just like a lot of spaces. The crypto space attracts a lot of people who want to get rich quick, and it's unregulated, so many people create scam cryptocurrencies and NFTs, sell them, and then run off with the money. But that is only part of the story. There are tons of people who genuinely love what Bitcoin is doing and want to see it succeed. And the fact that these scams happen and that many people get into Bitcoin just to get rich quick really doesn't affect the integrity of Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin was such a revolutionary idea that it attracted enough people to spawn these sorts of problems. Bitcoin was initially created as a response to the current monetary system. Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, wanted a decentralized currency that couldn't be controlled by some central entity. Satoshi felt that the current financial system was a scam and that maybe he had a way to fix it. Just a few months after Bitcoin was launched, he wrote, "The root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust." And Satoshi worked on Bitcoin for quite a while before it was launched. He also worked on it with the community for several years before finally leaving the project altogether. Shortly after Satoshi left, Mike Hearn, an early Bitcoin developer, wrote Satoshi asking if he would ever rejoin the project. Satoshi responded by saying, "I've moved on to other things. It's in good hands with Gavin and everyone." So the person behind the entire thing had good intentions for it and worked hard to make sure that it would succeed. Then when he felt that he had done all he could for Bitcoin, it was handed off to the community who could continue working on it. Some may say that Satoshi and this community were just focused on getting rich from Bitcoin and that's why they wanted to work on it. But that wasn't really any of their goals. The early Bitcoin supporters were ideologically driven. Bitcoin was a niche project that not many saw the potential of, and even those working on it gave it a very small chance of really succeeding. Today it's a massive asset that people all over the world own or at least have heard of, but in the beginning it was just a small project that a few people were passionate about. And Satoshi Nakamoto clearly didn't seek fame or fortune from his creation. We don't know who Satoshi was, and he has been completely silent pretty much since he left the project. Satoshi is also suspected to have accumulated a lot of Bitcoins in those early days, but after well over a decade he still hasn't moved any of them, meaning he probably never has any intentions of selling them. Those Bitcoins were just a byproduct of him being one of the first consistent Bitcoin miners. So maybe the early community behind Bitcoin had good intentions and worked hard to make Bitcoin something special. But as time has gone on, things have gotten a little crazy and now Bitcoin is a shell of its former self. After all, most Bitcoin transactions are based on speculation, not purchasing goods or services, and Bitcoin price is very volatile, which isn't great for a currency. These arguments get thrown around a lot when Bitcoin is accused of being a scam, and it makes sense as to why. The intentions of early Bitcoin adopters were clear, but now many just see it as a way to get wealthy. Many traders make a full-time income trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and they don't really know or care about why Bitcoin functions on a fundamental level. Some of this can be explained by growing pains. The more money that flows into something, the more it is going to be worth, and Bitcoin is still very small in the scheme of things, so when it gets a lot of attention, its price can move a lot. This has spawned many speculators who want to make a quick buck, and when there is a quick buck to be made, people are going to find out how to make it. However, as time has gone on, Bitcoin has gotten less and less volatile because the amount of money going into it has gotten larger and larger, and the the early 2010s, you could make a lot of money by just investing a few $100s into Bitcoin, but today you just aren't going to get those same kind of returns, as moving the price just isn't as easy. And as time goes on, Bitcoin is likely to get more and more stable, making it a more viable currency. And many claim that those promoting Bitcoin now just want to make their own net worths larger. They already have lots of money in Bitcoin, so getting others invested is just going to help them become wealthier. While this may be true for a very select few people, most malicious investors in the crypto space are not using Bitcoin. They are going for smaller cryptos that can be more easily manipulated in price, or they're creating their own cryptocurrency or NFT projects. Like I said, Bitcoin gains aren't nearly as lucrative as they used to be. There are also those that claim Bitcoin increasing in value at all is a problem for a currency, but that's the whole point of Bitcoin. With fiat currencies like the US dollar, it loses value over time. The Federal Reserve intentionally tries to keep inflation at 2%. This causes those who hold their dollars for a long period of time to actually lose money, which encourages people to spend their dollars rather than hold them. Conversely, Bitcoin is meant to be a way to preserve your wealth. It was designed with a limited quantity so that it could be a currency that benefits those who hold it. Satoshi Nakamoto was not satisfied with the money printing that many countries were doing during the Great Recession. This money printing caused many individuals to lose wealth and buying power. This is what he wanted to prevent with Bitcoin. So yeah, Bitcoin can be used to buy goods and services, but it can also be used to store wealth. With all that said, Bitcoin is still in its infancy. It has only been around for 14 years. There are tons of unknowns about its future. We don't know how governments will decide to regulate it, who will decide to use it, and how they will decide to use it. As time goes on, these things will become more apparent, but for now, we are left to wait and see how everything pans out. You may now be thinking that Bitcoin isn't inherently a scam, but it's still a stupid idea that either consumes too much energy for no reason, or at the end of the day doesn't really do anything worthwhile. If this is you, then why not check out my video on the real reason Bitcoin has value?